Just yesterday, I said that Danielle Smith had become very politically savvy, great communicator, much better than she had been, say, in 2012 election in Alberta, where she was leading the Wild Rose Party and blew a lead and lost the election. I take it back. I'm sorry I said that because comments she made today in a press conference about BC Premier David Eby are really nothing short of shameful. And it was a colossal misstep around the issue of a pipeline out to the northwest coast. And here's, let me put some context for you around this. Peter Lougheed, the iconic Alberta premier who, from 1971 to 1986, had six principles for governing, especially around energy issues. A really important one was practice statesmanship. Be good at politics. Be good at finding allies, forming coalitions, putting pressure on the federal government or your fellow premiers, whatever. But be a statesman. That's not what Smith did today. What she did was act just like the conservative talk show host she was for 9 years on QR77 in Calgary. What she said about Eby that's exactly the sort of thing that a talk show host would say. And you can only imagine, first of all, I'm going to play Smith's clip, and then you'll understand why Eby got really angry.
I think Premier Eby's comments are un-Canadian and they're unconstitutional. I think that the Supreme Court has determined that the reason we have a country and have given trade and commerce power and control over ports and interprovincial infrastructure to the federal government is for exactly this reason, so that a parochial premier isn't able to block nation-building projects.
Un-Canadian? Parochial? This is how you speak to other premiers? Especially other premiers that you want to build a pipeline through their province. And Eby makes the point in his reply. I didn't clip it, but I'll explain it for you. He makes the point that there's no project. And he's absolutely right. Last week, Danielle Smith held a press conference and she said the Alberta government is going to be the proponent for a pipeline. We've got a technical advisory group, and we think that in about 6 months, we're going to put in an application to the Major Projects Office of the federal government, and we're going to be the proponent for that project. Well, they haven't put an application in. So as of today, there is no project. They're working on one, but they haven't got one. And Eby says that. He says, why are we having this conversation when there's no project to discuss? And then he went on to say some things about Smith that are really uncomplimentary.
Right now, the province of BC, the Premier of BC, is not a threat to the pipeline project of the Premier of Alberta because there is no pipeline project. There is a public relations department. There is a Crown Corporation with $14 million. The only way currently that project is going forward is with tens of billions of dollars of public money. And if this is in fact another multi-billion dollar federally funded Alberta project, then where is the multi-billion dollar federally funded project in British Columbia? That is the question that I'm asking. And what is the opportunity cost of a multi-billion dollar taxpayer-funded Alberta project compared to what we can deliver here in BC, what we can deliver in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Quebec, the Maritimes, Newfoundland, the Territories? You show those premiers the opportunity to spend tens of billions of federal tax dollars, and what can they deliver? Give everybody a fair shot. It's not the Danielle Smith show, it's the Canadian team. And we all deserve the same opportunity for the same federal funding for our projects as she does for hers. That's not un-Canadian, that is fair, and there is nothing more Canadian than fairness. That is a core national value.
So I want to make the point that particularly in this exchange, in her press conference today, Smith was the anti-Peter Lougheed. Smith is the anti-statesmanship. She's exactly the opposite. And now I made the point in the past that, she basically is premier. She governs the, Alberta like she was a talk show host. But I thought lately that she had been turning a corner and she'd actually been handling the negotiations between her fellow premiers and the federal government pretty astutely. Well, she may have done, and she might have made progress towards the pipeline, but she blew it. Because are we going to pretend that this clip is not going to run on BC newscasts tonight? Are we going to pretend that the people of British Columbia, all 5 million of them, aren't going to watch that? Are we going to pretend that the other premiers and territorial leaders aren't going to watch those clips? Aren't going to hear about what she said about a fellow premier? Are we going to pretend that the federal government isn't going to be aware of that? Danielle Smith tonight put her foot squarely in a cow pie. I don't know how she comes back from this. Maybe she apologized to Eby personally and then goes on, holds a press conference and say, well, I was, I was upset. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. Let's move on. Well, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. Short of that, I think this is it's a setback in Alberta's quest to get a pipeline. A pipeline, by the way, which Energy Media opposes, because we don't think that there's going to be global demand for oil, or global demand for oil is going to fall after 2030. But nevertheless, you would expect that the Premier of Alberta would conduct herself more astutely. Clearly, that's not the case.